Oh, thank you, Cian. And thanks to everybody as well. Hi, Cian. Hi, Chloe. I'm delighted. That's not the right word. I'm excited. I'm going to say ecstatic to be a part of the fourth System in 2021 conference. And I hope you guys have fueled up on your caffeine this morning because we have quite the lineup. Okay. So everybody knows me as CK. If you have any trouble remembering, just think of Calvin Klein without the money. Just yet. I get the amazing role of introducing our, so no pressure, huh? But look, I'm not going to delay you guys any longer. Allow me to welcome our keynote speaker this morning, Sarah Cunningham, the Vice President and lead of Mastercard's European Technology Hub, where she is focused on growing the impact of Mastercard's Dublin operation, which has over 750 employees, the majority of whom are technologists dedicated shaping the future of payments technology. Sarah also has been a board director of Mastercard Ireland since July 2018, a staunch advocate for diversity and inclusion in the workplace and passionate about mentoring and coaching the future generation of. Okay, Sarah, give the rest of us a chance because come on, girl. A strong believer in education, so much so that she has commenced a part-time Exec MSc in Behavioural Science at the London School of Economics and Political Science. When Sarah isn't busy contributing to shaping the future of payments technology, she enjoys hiking with her husband and has hiked in the Himalayas, Lesotho, Peru, the Inca Trail, Spain, a leg of the Camino, the Alps, and of course, beautiful scenic Ireland. Well, you don't got to convince me that not all superheroes wear capes, okay? So Sarah, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you for that lovely intro. Can you hear me okay? CK, can you hear me okay? Brilliant. And can you see the slides okay? Super. Well, listen, I'm really impressed with this technology. I'm so impressed with the team, and I'll talk more about that. But welcome, everybody, to System 2021. What an absolute honor to be asked to present here again this year. System is my favorite conference, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit. But today I want to talk to you about the future of work, about how I believe the period of history that we're living through will ultimately shape the future of work. And I'm also going to share a few tips to set yourself up for success, both today in the present and in the future of work. So what better place to start when talking about the future than the past? I'm going to take you back a year to February 2020, the week of last year's System event. So that was a really busy week for me. As CK said, I lead Mastercard's Dublin Technology Hub. We have about 800 employees, just under 800 employees, and we're growing. And most of our employees are technologists dedicated to shaping the future of the payments and commerce industry through their deep expertise in a range of technologies: augmented reality, artificial intelligence, distributed ledger technology, cybersecurity, and more. And this time last year, it was actually 5 days before System. I was proud, along with the rest of Mastercard's senior leadership team, to welcome then Taoiseach Leo Varadkar to Mastercard for an important announcement. We announced that over the next 3 to 5 years, we'll be hiring 1,500 new jobs in Dublin, and that we'll be launching a state-of-the-art campus in Dublin's Leopardstown. We've already started hiring some of those roles, and we do remain committed to that growth. So if you do want to talk to somebody in Mastercard about career opportunities, there will be people on our virtual stand throughout the day. So please swing by virtually. But staying with last year, 5 days later, it was a leap day. February the 29th was System 2020. Now, as you can see from these photographs, the world looked a little bit different back then. There was no social distancing and people were not wearing masks. But you know what? The thing which was really the same was the positivity and confidence in the air, because System is such a great conference. And I realized pretty quickly that System is absolutely my kind of conference. Because System is built on principles that are really core to my heart and that are also really core to our culture at Mastercard. So the first two of those principles are community and collaboration. System is really unique. I'm not aware of any other inter-university conference like this, where you've got that diversity of thought by inviting students from multiple universities to join the same conference. You are creating the most incredible knowledge network. And it is never too early to build your professional network. So I heard Cian advising all of you to take this opportunity to network, and I second that, Cian. This is an incredible opportunity for all of you. It is more difficult to network in a virtual world, but the System team have put everything in place to enable you to do so. So really take that opportunity. The next principle that System is built on, which as CK mentioned is really close to my heart, is continuous education. Last year, I challenged you to never stop learning. System is wonderful. It's an opportunity to learn from each other's expertise and also to hear from and learn from industry experts across a range of companies and with a range of different expertise areas. In the future of work, continuous education is really going to stand to you. No matter what your graduate job, it will evolve, your role will evolve, new technologies will be born, new industries will be born. So the best habit you can get into is having a never stop learning attitude. Now, there's one other principle core to System, which is also really core to my heart, and that is diversity. So I think I heard Chloe talking about this earlier, just as I was tuning in. But this is a photograph of the physical badge from last year's System. When I saw this, my heart sang. It is fantastic to see that System is asking you to include your pronouns. That is really important. It is a really important sign that System is an inclusive conference that cares about ensuring that each and every attendee feels like you belong. And you know, there's so many elements of diversity. When I look at the agenda, my heart sings again to see that neurodiversity plays a key role in the agenda today. At last year's physical event, I remember quiet rooms had been booked so that if you're feeling overwhelmed, you had a place to go for a little bit of quiet and calm. Diversity has been in the news a lot this year, and it is important. And the future of work will be a work built on diversity, inclusion, and belonging. At Mastercard, we say that every employee should be free to bring your whole self to work. When you start looking for your graduate job, no matter what company you're applying to, look and see, is that a company where I feel I can be my true self and I feel I can belong? So these are the reasons why System is my favorite conference. It's built on community. It's all about collaboration, even in a virtual world. So take the opportunities to collaborate. It is a wonderful way for all of us to ensure that we are continuously learning. And it is an uplifting celebration of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. But let's go back again to that leap day last year, February the 29th. Now, the weather today is actually pretty similar, but for those of you who were there, you may remember that when we left the conference last year, a storm started, and driving home for me looked very like this photograph. Not an actual photograph, don't worry, I wasn't driving and taking photographs, but it was one of those days where the rain was so torrential that your windscreen wiper, no matter how fast it's going, you still struggle to see ahead of you. So as I was driving home through that physical storm, little did I know that our world was driving headfirst into the biggest metaphorical storm of my lifetime. And that evening, I was sitting in front of my cozy fire in my sitting room at home, and turned on the news, and sure enough, the first COVID case in Ireland was announced that evening. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know what happened since then, right? Schools closed, universities closed, most workers in the technology sector, apart from the critical workers, were mandated to work from home. And it has not been an easy year for anyone. It can be really tough to see the positives, particularly during a time of national and global tragedy. But when we look to the horizon, to a post-pandemic world, and by the way, we are getting a lot closer to a post-pandemic world. You only need to look at countries like Israel, which are now seeing a steep decline in infections as a direct result of their mass vaccination program. So when you look to that horizon, to that post-pandemic world, we will all take lessons from this past year. And those lessons will shape a more positive future of work. I don't believe that companies will return to the 2019 operating model, and nor should they. So here are 5 ways which I believe that the period of history we're all living through will ultimately shape the future of work in a positive way. And the first of these is innovation. So there's a well-known saying that necessity is the mother of innovation. Well, you only need to look at this conference to see if that's true. I have been blown away by the work that the System Committee have done to pivot such a brilliant physical conference so that it is equally as brilliant in a virtual world, or who knows, it might be even more successful today. I'm really excited to see. When I look at the wider technology industry and even the world in general, I'm just awestruck by the innovations that we're seeing. Small businesses are pivoting their entire business models. They are innovating all the time. In the technology industry, we're seeing augmented reality collaboration tools. We're seeing enhanced air purification systems. In the payments technology industry, advances in contactless have given consumers the opportunity for safer, socially distant digital payments. And of course, there's a massive innovation, which is truly groundbreaking, that in the space of a year, the world's best scientists came together and delivered a vaccine. I mean, we all know that's unheard of. Now, we're still living through this pandemic, so we haven't yet experienced all of the innovations that have been born and are being born in 2020 and 2021. But one thing is for sure, as we move post-pandemic, industries will evolve more quickly than ever, and innovation will happen at warp speed. And the really cool thing is that each and every one of you gets to play a part in that. As you graduate from university and you move into your graduate roles, you're going to be playing a part in innovating the technologies and industries of the future. The second way in which I believe the period of history that we're living through will ultimately shape the future of work is with regard to the really important topic of wellness. We've all become more aware of our health, of our physical health, of our mental health, and even our financial health. And it's not just individuals. Employers recognize that they need to lead with empathy and understanding. We're seeing fitness classes going online, wellness talks becoming virtual, and companies rolling out a range of wellness initiatives. But this is important not just during a pandemic, but at all times. So in the future of work, I believe that wellness will continue to be the cornerstone. And the companies that you will be working for will have programs, wellness initiatives that are focused on supporting the whole you. Indeed, in the companies that you're going to be working for, the leaders of those companies will lead with empathy and humanity. Over the past year, the most effective leaders have been leaders who possess the uniquely human skills of empathy, trust, and integrity. Leaders like those create an environment of psychological safety, where employees feel safe to speak up, to share their ideas, and to share their vulnerabilities, to be honest, during a tough time. But it's not just leaders who need these skills. When employers are hiring the talent of the future, employers are looking for these skills: empathy, trust, integrity, authenticity. At Mastercard, we talk a lot about the important quality of decency. By hiring people with these soft skills, we are creating a winning culture with decency at its core. And that's key to the future of work. But what about the office of the future? You know, many of us have been working from home for the past year. I certainly believe the office of the future still has a key role to play. And in Mastercard, we're still fitting out our new state-of-the-art campus. And we've been able to take the lessons from this past year. So when the pandemic hit nearly a year ago, most workers in the technology sector were mandated to work from home, except for critical workers. Now, some people found that suited them. They found that they saved time on their commute, and maybe they were lucky enough to have a spare room that they could dedicate as a home office. But for everybody who celebrated working from home, many more lamented it. For people who were living by themselves, it was isolating. For people who were sharing flat shares, it was really hard to get any space, and it is not easy to do focused work when 3 of you are sitting around a kitchen table, as I suspect many of you know. For parents of young children, it was really difficult to balance work and homeschooling and just the ordinary chores. So there will be a need for a return to an office in the future. But the key thing is that the office should be a little bit different, because it will take on the learnings. As we create our new office, our new building in Leopardstown, we're taking on these learnings. The office of the future will be an uplifting and inspiring physical space that nurtures continuous education, that promotes wellness, and that creates a sense of community and fosters innovation. In the future of work, I believe that it will be hybrid. So choice and flexibility are the foundation, because that's the thing that's been taken away this past year: choice. Some people will prefer to work from home. Some people will prefer to work in the office. So choice and flexibility will be the foundation of the future of work, but technology will be the enabler, creating those equitable experiences, whether you're physically in the office or joining a meeting remotely. And the office itself still has a key role to play. So we hope that over the next few years, maybe some of you will join us in our new office in Leopardstown. So the final way that I believe the period of history we're living through will shape the future of work is something very close to my heart, and something I've already talked about, and that's diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So there's a well-known phrase that diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. I would continue that phrase by saying that belonging is feeling that you can really be yourself and be free while you dance. But how can companies create a culture of belonging? Well, all of the things that I've talked about so far play a key role, particularly aspects like wellness and nurturing collaboration, and all of the principles that this conference system is built on. At Mastercard, we believe that employees should be free to bring your whole self to work. And my advice to all of you, as you start thinking about your graduate roles, is as you look at companies, there are many wonderful companies out there which have created this culture of belonging already. Have a look and make sure that you're seeing a company where you feel that you can bring your whole self to that company and where you feel that you can belong. Because when we're free to be ourselves, that's when we're at our best, and that's when we do our best work. So It's great and it's clear that the future of work is looking positive. But what about now? The present? Because we're still living through a pandemic. And you know what? Your university experience has been disrupted. So you were supposed to be learning, collaborating, and socializing physically, but you're not. You're probably now in your kitchen, your bedroom, maybe the shed in your back garden, attending lectures online. That's not the promise that university offered. And it sucks. It does. It's not easy. I have some insight into that myself. As CK mentioned, I've recently started a part-time master's in addition to my day job. And I was supposed to be attending my lectures in person, but of course I'm not. I attend my lectures remotely from my spare bedroom. I also work from my spare bedroom at the moment. And you know what? I'm very lucky, and I recognize I'm very lucky to have a spare bedroom. This pandemic has impacted different groups disproportionately. There's no doubt about that. But the one thing that is true is that everybody has been impacted, and it hasn't been easy. There's times where it can feel like we're just treading water or we're just surviving. So I wanted to share a few tips that I've personally found helpful myself in terms of how you can set yourself up for success and go from surviving to thriving, not just now, but also in the future of work. And each and every one of these tips will enable you to build good habits that you can take forward into your graduate careers and throughout your careers. So the first few tips I'm going to share are tips for working smart. Again, these things are going to help you now through your studies. They're going to be particularly helpful as you come up to exam time. And they're going to help you right throughout your career. So the first tip is to identify your time traps. Have you ever had one of those days where you've got big plans for your day? Complete your assignment, you're going to apply for that graduate role, and then you're going to have plenty of time in the evening and you're going to cook a new recipe for dinner. But suddenly the day disappears and you actually don't know where the time went. Well, if you do feel like that, you're not alone. According to a global survey, about 80% of people globally are feeling time poor, i.e. they feel like they've too much to do and not enough time to do it in. So how do you solve for that? Well, the first tip is to take time to reflect and identify your own time traps. Maybe actually you're being a bit overambitious and you're planning to do more than is in reality possible in one day. If that's the case, have empathy for your future self and plan a little bit less aggressively. Or maybe you're multitasking. You think you're getting lots of things done, but actually you're not devoting your full attention to any one task individually. Or maybe the blur of boundaries, now that you're studying from home and at home, gets in the way. Maybe you're finding that you're doing chores that you probably wouldn't do if you were in university. But one major source of time trap for pretty much everybody, this is pretty universal, is technology. So there's a wonderful lady called Ashley Willens. She's an author and a professor at Harvard Business School, and I'll share details of her book later. But she talks about how technology and how it frequently disrupts us and distracts us, creates time confetti. So what you can see on this slide, at the top of this slide is a 2-hour free period. When we know we've got 2 hours, maybe for you guys, you've got 2 hours with no lectures and no labs, and you can just use that time to nail your assignment. You think, great, brilliant. But what you're seeing on the bottom is actually the reality of what happens to that 2 hours. You start working and then you get an email. So you alt tab and you read the email and you think, oh, I'd better reply. So you reply to your email. And then you alt tab back and you start working again. And you're getting into it. Your focus is coming back. But then your phone beeps and you see it's a WhatsApp and you think, oh, do you know what? It's only going to take a few seconds to reply. So you start to reply to the WhatsApp and you put it down. But just as you're putting it down, you do notice that TikTok video. No, I don't have time. I'll leave it. but then you're struggling to concentrate, so you pick it back up and you check out the TikTok video and, oh, you can swipe right on that Tinder. Look, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the point is our technology continually interrupts us. And what you're seeing at the bottom of this slide is how that breaks up our day and it breaks up our time into time confetti. Now, that might not look like you're losing a lot of time, but neuroscience research tells us that on average, when we're distracted, it takes us about 25 minutes to get back into deep, focused work. So if you factor that in, what you'll see is you're actually losing a huge amount of time due to these distractions from technology. So you know what I'm going to say, right? You need to block out time for focused work, and you need to turn off all notifications, block out distractions during that time. That's what I did when I was preparing for this presentation, by the way. Now, sometimes you might be thinking, oh, I better not turn my phone off. What if there is an emergency? And there is a way around that. All of your phones will have a do not disturb function. And what you can do is you can choose a couple of priority people who will be able to get through to you when you put on do not disturb. For me, that's my husband and that's my mother. Otherwise, when my phone is on do not disturb, I won't get any notifications, which is a good thing because I'm terrible when WhatsApp beeps. I've also had to start muting all of those group WhatsApp conversations. These are ways to reduce the distractions that technology will bring us every day. Now, if you're going to block out time for focused work, you will get a lot more out of that if you plan for it. I still have a written to-do list, okay? Some of you will prefer a digital to-do list, but I really find that I get a sense of achievement from actually scribbling out something that I've done. So I do recommend it. But it's really important that if you have a to-do list, and by the way, you don't want a to-do list like the one we're seeing in this photo, right? Having a to-do list is a great way of alleviating stress and anxiety. I don't know about you, but I've often had a situation where I have something in my head that I need to do. And what ends up happening is I get stuck in the remember not to forget loop. So throughout my day, I'm thinking, oh, no, I mustn't forget that. I mustn't forget that. And it becomes a source of stress where all you actually need to do is write it down. You don't even need to do the task immediately, but you need to write it down and have a plan for when you're going to do it. And that's a really quick way to just lift stress and anxiety off you. But don't create a laundry list. Really prioritize. Figure out what are the top 3, absolute maximum 5 things that you're going to do today. So don't have a to-do list, have a must-do list. Everything else, you still need to note it down, but you can have a parking lot. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll now have a prioritized list, and there will be one thing on that list that you are dreading. You procrastinate it, you just don't want to do it, and actually thinking about it also brings up a certain amount of stress. So Mark Twain calls those things the frogs, and he says, eat your frogs first. Now that sounds a bit weird. Let me tell you why. Mark Twain had a famous saying many years ago. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. If it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest frog first. So a slightly odd metaphor, but at the same time, a very visual metaphor. So I think a very effective metaphor. And, you know, a frog is quite simply one of those tasks that we're dreading, that we're putting off, that we're procrastinating. But if you do that first thing in the morning, that's the first job you do when you're free. Okay, you may have lectures first thing in the morning, but when you have that space of focused time, if this is the first thing you do, you're going to lift up stress off your shoulders because you've done that thing you're dreading and you're not going to be dreading it anymore. And on top of that, you're going to be creating positive momentum. So you're going to find that you're going to tick off those other items on your to-do list a little bit more quickly as well. So this is a great tip for working smart. Eat your frogs first and bring that with you into your graduate roles and throughout your careers, and it will serve you well. All of these things are around creating habits and routines. And that brings me to the next section of tips that I wanted to share with you. And this is to create rituals. Much of what we automatically do in life are routines or habits, but they're not always good habits. So by creating rituals, you get to determine and shape those habits in your life. And the first is something that you might have seen in social media recently, which is to start a daily fake commute. So in 2019, you all probably had a commute, either to university, or for those of you who were in school to school, or for those of you working to work, right? And it was kind of automatic. I mean, I remember my commute to work, and my gym is actually en route to the office. And I often was supposed to go to the gym before work and just found myself in the office because I was just on auto drive, and I drove straight and found myself turning around and going back. But the point is, a commute was not something you really thought about. It was just a part of your day. Now, you may not have thought about it in a positive manner, but what it did was it actually separated your home life and your work life. What's happened since is now that people are studying from home and working from home, they've managed to fill that time with extra work. So studies show that instead of saving time, people are just doing extra work. But you'd have to wonder, are they really filling the time with extra work, or are they filling the time with time confetti? So my advice is to start a daily fake commute. My fake commute is a 5-kilometer loop from my house to my house. 5 kilometers is kind of a nice distance because it's less than an hour. And I try to do it most days. I'm human. I don't do it every day, but I'm really trying to. The more we build that habit, the more it becomes automatic for us. And the more when we wake up in the morning, it'll just be our cue to do our fake commute. This photo is taken on one of my fake commutes. It's sunrise. It is really uplifting to watch the sunrise in the morning, and it really sets you up for your day. I know I'm really lucky. I live by the sea, and it is beautiful. But you know what? There is beauty everywhere if you just go and look for it. So I highly recommend build in this routine, build in this ritual, and it will get you out in fresh air, and you will feel so much more awake and uplifted when you start working or tune into your first lecture or start studying. The next ritual is the other end of the day. And by the way, you do need to be taking breaks in between the start and the end of the day. That is important. But at the end of the day, do you give yourself a reward? Because we all work really hard, and it's important to just treat ourselves. Now, I'm not saying you're buying yourself a great big present every day, but something small. And that's going to differ for everybody. For some people, it will actually be just getting out and getting into fresh air again. It might be going for a cycle, a jog, a walk. For some people, it might not be exercise. It might be having a shower or a relaxing hot bath, or just a cup of herbal tea, or maybe a treat. Maybe you have a snack bar, or just something that helps you switch off. The point here is you're trying to create that delineation and switch off your work and university worries and just move yourself into you time and rest time, because we're humans and we need that. We cannot be on all the time. For some people, it will be watching TV, watching your favorite program, and that's okay. But we are spending a lot of time in front of screens right now. So if you can find an alternative reward that just gives your eyes a rest, I do recommend it. It could be listening to a podcast instead, or it could be listening to your favorite music or reading a book. But it is important just to switch off and delineate between your rest time and your work time. And again, these are things that you can carry right through into your careers as well. Right now, we're not really able to go on vacations like we once did. But you know what? The weekend is important. Even if it's only one day. I know when you come up to exams, you will of course be, studying at the weekends as well. But even if you can carve out a day or half a day and treat it like a weekend, and treat it like a vacation rather. Because the thing that's great about a vacation is not really where you go. The thing which really helps us is that we switch off and we stop worrying about university or work or whatever might be a sense of worry for us, and we just relax. You know, we read that fiction book that we've been really looking forward to read, but we haven't had time to read it. Do that at your weekend. Or sometimes it's going exploring. When I go on holiday, I love exploring a new area. But one thing that I did during this time is I've explored my own area. For many of us, well, for all of us, we're not able to go outside of that 5-kilometer radius for exercise at the moment due to lockdown. But have you truly explored your 5-kilometer radius? Because I've been living in my area for 5 years now, and in the past year, I've discovered all of these little secret roads I didn't know about and secret parks, and I've kind of become a local explorer. And what I'm doing is I'm creating small moments of joy. So I recommend that if there's a couple of roads that you've never gone down, go down, look at the houses, see if there's a secret park, go onto Google Maps, see if there's a little area you didn't know about, and go and take photos and find those small moments of beauty and those small moments of joy in your life. And that's what these rituals are all about, is about finding ways to lift yourself up. So I hope that these tips will help you both now as we go through the tail end of this pandemic and as you move into the future of work and your future careers. There's a lot of tips here. Some of them I did get from some resources which I found very helpful. So the first book you see on this slide, Time Smart by Ashley Whillans. So this is a fantastic book, and some of the information I shared with you around time traps and time confetti came from this book with Ashley's permission. So it's a great book. Now, I know that, you know, money is tight when you're in university and at this time particularly. So if you can't afford to buy that book, Ashley was interviewed on The Innovation Show, which is my favorite podcast, okay? It's hosted by Aidan McCullen. So I recommend you listen to Ashley Whillans on The Innovation Show podcast. It's a great podcast. There's lots of other great episodes as well, so listen to that. And in the middle is a website that I have found really helpful called Thrive. It's Ariana Huffington's website. Again, a great resource, very helpful to go to and just check in every now and then. What I would say is I've shared some suggestions, but everybody is unique. If you do find that you're finding times tough or you're struggling, all of your universities will have a plethora of resources available, and do use them. Those resources are there for you. And as you go into your graduate roles, if you find that you're struggling, because it's not just during a pandemic that people struggle, your companies will offer you similar resources. And do use those resources. Do talk to somebody if you're struggling, and do look for the support resources, because in university they're there, and in the future companies you will be working for, they are there as well. So with that, I would love to talk to some of you. I'm going to go virtually over to the Mastercard virtual booth. And if you'd like to chat, I'd love to talk to you. It's very odd delivering a presentation like this because you don't get the feedback. So I'd love to chat to you. And I hope the tips that I've shared are useful. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the day. There's some incredible speakers lined up. And I'm also going to give a very quick pitch for the Mastercard lightning talks that are coming up a little bit later. So thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Honestly, I can say the only words that come to mind, obviously Sarah is superb, and just to reiterate as well, just about the student supports that are placed in universities, only because of the fact I'm a career coach. So I'm really happy to have heard that. And Sarah, I was actually making a note here because I honestly felt like you were, you know, coming for me with everything that you were saying, because I was like, okay, she's talking about me, so TikTok, delete that. So thank you so much for that. there was a lot of golden nuggets to take away. You use such emotionally evoking words: collaboration, empathy, compassion, the choice, flexibility, about technology being the enabler. Honestly, empowering, and just to keep with the mission of system, inspirational. You're honestly making me rethink my entire career, if I'm going to be honest, but it's okay. But thank you so much, Sarah, for your golden nuggets. Thank you so much for inspiring and empowering us as well. I was actually saying in the chat there, because the chat was very live while you were speaking, and the one thing that I do have to say is, where were you when I was in college? Where were you when I was trying to make an idea as to what my career was? Because it's only now, as I'm, in my career and establishing myself, that I'm implementing all these things. Could you imagine how great I would be? Well, no, how more amazing I would be had I had you from the very beginning. So thank you.
Can I respond to that, because I think it's a really important point. I don't think anybody has it all together. And I think, it's too easy to think, oh, is it just me that gets stressed and everybody else has it all together? And, I started university in 1996. It was quite a long time ago, and I absolutely didn't have it all together. I would have benefited from these tips, but these tips have come from reading books like that, going to podcasts like that, looking at websites. So really, the top piece of advice I can give you is, don't feel like you're alone if you are struggling, because it's human and we're all human. And also look for those support resources and take those nuggets of information. They'll come from lots of different places.
Of course, definitely. Guys, I'd actually like to hear from you guys, all of our attendees, whether you want to do it in the chat or you want to post it up on our social media. Let us know, what is the one golden nugget that you got to walk away from after listening to Sarah. Sarah, I will be definitely connecting with you, because I just know I'm going to benefit from having you in my social circle, my network, whatever you want to call it. So thank you so much for that. And just for reiterating as well, I think it's really great when people like yourself get involved in student-led events, because much information, so much knowledge, and so much that you can share with our, this is the future generation. These are the people that are going to be in the positions that recruiters are looking at now. And from myself, just working with students in college, I always think that guest speakers like yourself, people who have that wealth of information and want to share it, are honestly one of the best industry leaders that we do have. So I do want to sincerely thank you for participating, as well as for sharing what you have with all of our students today.
Oh, well, listen, thank you. And can I just say, the future is clearly incredibly bright. I am blown away by what the System Committee have achieved. And I mean, the System Committee over the past year have learned crisis management skills, leadership skills. They've learned how to pivot from, a physical event to a virtual event. They are experts on a whole range of conference technologies now. And with those skills that they've learned, the future is so bright. And that is why I love this conference, because I just love seeing the curiosity, the passion, and the expertise that the next generation of talent, and you watching this, you are the future, and the future really is bright. So thank you, CK, and thank you to each member of the System Committee. You're just playing a blinder, so thank you.
No problem at all. So on that note, guys, we're going to sign off just for a little bit. So grab a coffee, maybe go to the bathroom, rehydrate yourself, grab a little snack. Okay. We're going to be back over here at 11, where we do have more amazing speakers lined up. Sarah, thank you so much. And guys, I will see you back here at 11.